Why does an island forged by fire spends its winters draped in ice and illuminated by solar storms? The answer begins in the North Atlantic, just below the Arctic Circle, where the night sky often glows with the aurora borealis. Below these dancing lights, the terrain reveals a violent geological history. Jagged gabbro peaks rise sharply from flat, dark plains of volcanic sand. Where the ocean meets the shore, tides constantly reshape the coastline. The dramatic contrast between frozen slopes and turbulent waters sets the stage for a land of constant transformation. This striking coastal landform is Vesterhorn, a mountain range located in southeastern Iceland. Its steep cliffs are composed of iron-rich magma that cooled slowly beneath the surface millions of years ago. At the base lies Stokksnes, a vast expanse of black sand formed by the relentless erosion of volcanic rock. The shallow waters here often recede to leave a wet, mirror-like surface on the beach, reflecting the towering peaks above. During clear winter nights, the remote location provides an ideal vantage point for observing the vivid colors of the northern lights. The ground splits open, spewing molten rock and thick plumes of toxic gas into the sky. This raw display of tectonic power occurs along the mid-Atlantic ridge, where two major continental plates slowly pull apart. Deep beneath the surface, magma finds its way upward through fissures in the Earth's crust. The erupting lava flows out at extreme temperatures, snaking through the dark terrain in glowing red rivers. As the liquid rock cools and hardens upon contact with the air, it builds new layers of basalt over the existing landscape. This active vent belongs to Fagradalsfjall, a tuya volcano situated on the Reykjanes Peninsula. After remaining dormant for thousands of years, the system awakened with a series of fissure eruptions. The volcanic activity here is characterized by effusive flows rather than explosive ash clouds, allowing the magma to spill steadily from the crater. Rivers of glowing rock carve channels down the slopes, gradually filling the surrounding valleys. The cooling lava creates fresh, uneven fields of dark stone, constantly altering the topography of the peninsula. Beyond the lava fields, the Earth's internal heat manifests in violently boiling pools and sudden eruptions of steam. Groundwater seeps deep into the crust, where it is superheated by underlying magma chambers. The pressure builds until the water rapidly expands into steam, shooting high into the air. Surrounding these active vents, the soil is stained with reddish-brown and pale yellow hues, the result of mineral deposits left behind by the geothermal waters. Boardwalks guide visitors safely around the treacherous, steaming terrain, allowing them to witness the periodic blasts. This highly active geothermal feature is Strokkur, located in the Halkadalur Valley. It erupts reliably every few minutes, sending a column of boiling water up to 100 feet into the sky. Before each blast, the pool at the surface forms a distinct pulsating blue blister as the steam pressure peaks below. The geyser sits within a larger geothermal field that has been active for thousands of years. The constant cycle of heating, expanding, and erupting draws crowds to the edge of the mineral-crusted basin, waiting for the sudden release. From the active geothermal zones, the landscape transitions to steep green cliffs carved by ancient glaciers. Meltwater from ice caps feeds rivers that plunge over these rocky escarpments. A massive curtain of water drops nearly 200 feet into a shallow pool below. The constant spray nourishes a thick layer of moss and grass that clings to the surrounding rock walls. Behind the falling water, a deep recess in the cliff face forms a natural cavern. A narrow trail allows people to walk completely around the back of the cascade. This renowned cascade is Seljalandsfoss, situated along the southern coast. The cliff it falls from once marked the island's coastline, but geological uplift and receding oceans have pushed the sea miles away, leaving a flat plain below. The river supplying the falls originates from the Eyjafjallajökull Glacier. During the summer, the surrounding meadows turn bright green, contrasting sharply with the dark volcanic rock. The unique pathway behind the water provides a rare perspective, letting visitors look out through the mist over the flat coastal lowlands stretching toward the horizon. A short distance away, another powerful river drops over the former coastal cliffs. This wide curtain of water plunges heavily into a flat, rocky riverbed, generating a massive cloud of mist. The sheer volume and force of the cascade create turbulent currents at the base. A steep staircase is built into the adjacent green hillside, offering a path to an observation platform at the top of the drop. This is Skogafoss, one of the largest waterfalls in the country, spanning over 80 feet in width. The heavy spray consistently produces single or double rainbows on sunny days. The river above flows across a highland plateau before reaching the steep drop-off. The surrounding terrain is covered in dense vegetation that thrives on the continuous moisture. The flat ground at the base allows observers to walk right up to the turbulent plunge pool. The water crashing down from the plateau carries glacial silt, giving it a milky appearance during heavy melts. Looking down from the upper ridge reveals the immense power of the flow as it clears the cliff edge. The Skogá River then continues its journey across the coastal plain toward the Atlantic Ocean. The dark volcanic gravel along the riverbanks provides a stark foreground against the rushing white water and the steep green slopes. Where the southern plains meet the Atlantic, dark volcanic sand and towering basalt formations shape the coastline. Jagged sea stacks rise dramatically from the churning ocean, battered by relentless waves. These sharp rock pillars were once part of the mainland cliffs before centuries of erosion isolated them in the surf. The beach itself consists of smooth black pebbles and coarse sand, created as hot lava met the cold sea and shattered. These offshore pinnacles are known as Reynisdrangar, situated just off the famous Reynisfjara black sand beach. The powerful ocean currents here produce dangerous sneaker waves that frequently surge high up the shore without warning. The dark sand absorbs heat, but the coastal winds remain fierce. The towering cliffs framing the beach feature striking hexagonal basalt columns, formed by cooling lava contracting and cracking in precise geometric patterns. The harsh North Atlantic weather continually shapes the Reynisfjara coastline. Winter storms bring snow that blankets the upper cliffs, contrasting with the dark stone and turbulent white surf. The sea stacks, standing up to 200 feet tall, serve as nesting grounds for various seabirds during the warmer months. Despite the rugged conditions, the combination of volcanic geology and relentless oceanic force creates one of the most recognizable shorelines in the region. Further east, the interaction between ice and ocean creates a different shoreline. Large, translucent chunks of ice wash up onto black volcanic sand, resembling scattered gems. These ice fragments originate from a nearby lagoon, where a massive glacier calves directly into a deep lake. The icebergs drift slowly through the calm, dark waters, their bright blue and white surfaces standing out against the desolate terrain. This expansive body of water is Jökulsárlón, a glacial lagoon that has grown significantly over recent decades as the Breiðamerkurjökull glacier retreats. The floating icebergs are heavily compacted, giving them a deep blue hue. As they melt and roll over in the water, new textures and shapes are exposed. Eventually, the blocks drift through a short waterway and out into the Atlantic, where the waves push them back onto the shore. The lagoon is a dynamic environment, constantly changing as new ice breaks off the glacier face. The mixture of fresh meltwater and salty ocean tides creates a unique ecosystem that supports fish and seals. During the winter, fog often rolls in off the ocean, shrouding the icebergs in a thick mist. The stark contrast between the crystalline ice and the dark, rocky shoreline highlights the ongoing process of glacial retreat. Inland from the lagoon, the source of the ice reveals itself. Deep beneath the glacial surface, meltwater carves intricate, glowing blue ice caves. Above ground, the massive size of the ice cap dominates the landscape. The surface is heavily textured with deep crevasses and thick streaks of black volcanic ash, recording years of past eruptions. This vast field of ice flows slowly downhill, squeezed between rugged mountain peaks. This massive ice cap is Vatnajökull, the largest glacier in Europe by volume. It covers roughly 8% of the country's landmass. The ice reaches thicknesses of over 3,000 feet, hiding several active volcanoes beneath its surface. Outlet glaciers, or glacial tongues, spill down into the surrounding valleys, carving deep gouges into the bedrock. As the ice slowly grinds forward, it pushes large mounds of rock and debris ahead of it. During the summer, the lower elevations near the glacier edge turn green, providing a sharp visual boundary against the advancing ice. The surface of the outlet glaciers becomes highly fractured as the ice moves over uneven terrain, creating a treacherous maze of deep cracks. Meltwater pools in depressions on the ice and flows into subglacial rivers. The constant movement and melting of Vatnajökull shape the entire southeastern region of the island. One of the most prominent outlet glaciers flows through a wide, rugged valley, flanked by steep, dark mountain slopes. The ice here is deeply scarred and covered in dirt and ash, giving it a gritty, textured appearance. As the glacier descends, it slowly grinds the underlying rock into fine silt. At the terminus, the melting ice feeds a murky lagoon, surrounded by barren gravel plains. The heavy weight of the ice continues to carve and deepen the valley floor. This specific glacial tongue is part of the Skaftafell Wilderness Area, located within the broader national park. The surrounding mountains are composed of resilient basalt, which funnels the ice flow directly toward the coastal lowlands. The ridges of the glacier are heavily crevassed, making travel across the surface difficult and dangerous. As the climate warms, the terminus of the Skaftafell Glacier retreats noticeably each year, leaving behind newly exposed rock and expanding the meltwater lakes at its base. The lagoons that form at the base of these retreating glaciers provide a stark environment of freezing water and floating debris. Visitors often navigate these murky lakes in small boats or kayaks to get a closer view of the towering ice walls. The water temperature hovers just above freezing, and the depth can increase rapidly as the glacier scours the basin. The rocky hillsides surrounding the lagoons are slow to support vegetation, maintaining a raw, newly uncovered appearance for decades. Within the same wilderness area, a narrow stream plunges over a very different geological formation. The cliff face behind this waterfall is composed entirely of dark, hexagonal basalt columns. These geometric shapes formed when a thick lava flow cooled extremely slowly, causing the rock to contract and fracture into vertical pillars. The bright white water of the cascade stands out sharply against the black stone. Lush green moss and low shrubs cling to the damp sides of the rocky gorge, thriving in the constant mist. This unique cascade is named Svartifoss, which translates to Black Falls. The overhanging columns at the top of the cliff are prone to breaking off as the water undercuts the softer rock below, leaving a pile of sharp basalt fragments at the base. The striking geometric patterns of Svartifoss have heavily influenced local architecture, inspiring the design of several prominent buildings in the country. The surrounding nature reserve offers the network of hiking trails that wind through the rugged volcanic terrain to reach the gorge. During the winter months, Svartifoss transforms as freezing temperatures grip the gorge. Thick icicles build up along the edges of the basalt columns, and snow blankets the surrounding vegetation. The flow of water often diminishes, but the cascade rarely freezes completely. The dark lava columns provide a dramatic background for the bright ice and snow. Looking up from the base, the hexagonal pillars seem to hang suspended over the plunge pool, demonstrating the precise and rigid structures created by cooling volcanic rock. In the northeastern part of the country, the landscape opens up into a desolate, rocky canyon where a massive volume of water surges over a wide precipice. The river carries a heavy load of glacial sediment, giving the turbulent water a gray, milky color. An immense curtain of water plunges violently into the deep gorge below, generating a constant, towering column of mist. The surrounding terrain is barren and flat, composed of fractured basalt and sparse vegetation. This roaring titan is Dettifoss, recognized as the most powerful waterfall in Europe based on water volume. It drops over 140 feet into the Jökulsárgljúfur Canyon. The river originates from the Vatnajökull Glacier far to the south, gathering speed and sediment as it crosses the highlands. The sheer force of the water causes the ground nearby to tremble slightly. The canyon itself was likely carved by catastrophic glacial floods thousands of years ago. The mist rising from the impact zone of Dettifoss is visible from miles away, often creating large rainbows in the afternoon sun. The eastern and western banks of the canyon offer different vantage points, both requiring travel over rough, unpaved roads. The constant spray keeps the immediate rocky edges slick and treacherous. Despite the harsh, barren environment, the raw power of the water cutting through the volcanic plateau remains a central feature of the Northern Highlands. Further inland, another river plunges into a deep, narrow canyon framed by dramatic geological features. The water here cascades forcefully over a lip of dark rock, dropping into a bright turquoise plunge pool. The cliff walls surrounding the basin display a complex mix of vertical and twisted basalt columns. The stark contrast between the bright glacial water, the white foam, and the dark volcanic rock creates a striking visual environment. This is Aldeyjarfoss, located in the Skjálfandaflidja river system. The distinctive basalt columns were formed by the Súðarthraun lava field, which flowed through this valley over 9,000 years ago. The lower section of the canyon walls shows the hexagonal pillars neatly aligned, while the upper layers appear chaotic and deformed. The pool at the base is deep and turbulent, constantly churned by the heavy flow descending from the highlands. The remote location of Aldeyjarfoss keeps it isolated within the rugged northern terrain. The river continues its course through the deep canyon, eventually making its way to the northern coast. The high volume of water tumbling over the dark cliffs produces a steady roar that echoes off the basalt walls. Small rainbows often form in the mist near the base, adding brief flashes of color to the stark volcanic landscape. On a western peninsula, a distinctively shaped mountain rises sharply near the coastline. Its conical, symmetrical peak stands isolated from the main mountain range, projecting into the sea. In the foreground, a multi-tiered waterfall cascades down a rocky slope, providing a dynamic contrast to the static peak. During calm weather, the shallow waters at the base of the mountain perfectly reflect its towering profile. The surrounding landscape features lush green grass in the summer, covering the lower slopes and coastal plains. This iconic landmark is Kirkjufell, located on the northern coast of the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. The mountain's layered structure reveals millions of years of geological history, with alternating bands of volcanic rock and sedimentary deposits. The adjacent waterfall, Kirkjufellsfoss, channels glacial meltwater toward the ocean. Low-hanging clouds frequently shroud the peak, adding a moody atmosphere to the coastal setting. The combination of the steep, solitary mountain and the cascading water makes this one of the most photographed locations in the country. As the seasons change, the appearance of Kirkjufell shifts dramatically. In the summer, the midnight sun casts long shadows and bathes the peak in golden light for hours. The mountain's steep, exposed sides were scoured and sharpened by glaciers during the last ice age, leaving the distinct, isolated shape seen today. The nearby town of Grundarfjörður relies on the sheltered waters around the peak for a natural harbor, integrating the monumental landscape into daily coastal life. Along the northern coast, a massive basalt rock formation stands in the shallow surf of a dark sand beach. The sea stack features two large natural arches at its base, giving it the appearance of a massive stone creature drinking from the ocean. The rock is heavily weathered by the relentless pounding of the Atlantic waves and the harsh coastal winds. At low tide, the receding water leaves a vast, wet expanse of black sand. This geological oddity is Strokkur, located on the Vatnsnes Peninsula. The name translates to white shirt, referring to the heavy layer of bird guano that often covers the dark rock. To protect the foundation from further ocean erosion, the base of the stack has been reinforced with concrete. The silhouette of the rock is striking at dusk, standing starkly against the horizon as the tides shift the dark sands around its base. The cliffs adjacent to Strokkur are covered in tough coastal grasses, and small waterfalls occasionally trickle down the slopes directly to the beach. During the winter, the shoreline is blanketed in snow, and the ocean takes on a deep, freezing blue. The isolated sea stack serves as a prominent landmark along the otherwise desolate coastline of the peninsula, drawing people down the steep paths to walk across the tidal flats at its base. In the remote northwestern fjords, a massive waterfall cascades down a broad, stepped rock face. The water fans out as it descends, creating a wide, veil-like appearance over the dark, rugged cliffs. Below the main drop, the river continues to flow over a series of smaller, tiered cascades before eventually reaching the ocean. The surrounding landscape is characterized by steep, mossy slopes and deep, isolated valleys. This grand cascade is Dynjandi, the largest waterfall in the West Fjords region. The upper section alone drops over 300 feet, spreading from a narrow top to a base nearly twice as wide. The continuous flow of water over the rocky terraces produces a deafening roar that echoes through the fjord. Hikers often explore the rocky trails near the base, dwarfed by the sheer volume of the falling water. The series of smaller falls below the main drop each have their own distinct character, carved into the mountainside over millennia. The rugged terrain requires a steep climb to reach the base of the upper cascade. Bright yellow and green mosses thrive in the constant moisture, clinging to the dark stone. The river eventually empties into Arnarfjordur, connecting the high mountain meltwater directly to the deep coastal fjord. At the far western edge of the island, steep, grassy cliffs drop vertically into the ocean. These towering rock walls provide a safe nesting ground for millions of seabirds. Among them, Atlantic puffins stand prominently on the mossy ledges, easily recognized by their striking black and white plumage and brightly colored beaks. The birds use the high vantage point to launch themselves into the air and dive into the clear waters below to hunt for small fish. The vast ocean stretches out endlessly beyond the rocky promontory. These monumental bird cliffs are known as Latribjarg, marking the westernmost point of the country. Stretching for miles, the sheer drops reach heights of over 1,000 feet. The grassy turf at the edge is heavily burrowed by puffins, which dig shallow holes to rear their young. Alongside the puffins, thousands of razorbills and guillemots crowd the narrow stone ledges. The lack of natural predators on these sheer cliff faces allows the massive seabird colonies to thrive, dominating the coastal ecosystem during the summer breeding season. Inland, a prominent tectonic fissure cuts deeply through the landscape, creating a rugged rift valley. The sheer basalt walls of the gorge mark the exposed edge of the North American tectonic plate. The valley floor is relatively flat, covered in low shrubs and grasses that turn bright colors in the autumn. Wooden boardwalks and gravel paths wind through the rocky canyon, allowing people to walk directly between the shifting continental plates. The deep cracks and fissures reveal the violent geological forces that constantly tear the island apart. This specific gorge is Almannagjá, the largest and most distinct fault line in the area. The tectonic plates drift apart by roughly an inch each year, slowly widening the valley. The river Oxara flows through a portion of the rift, tumbling over the rocky walls before meandering across the lower plains. The high vertical cliffs of the gorge provided natural acoustics, making it an ideal gathering place for early settlers. The rough, moss-covered volcanic rock defines the edges of this ever-expanding continental divide. Beyond the Rift Valley, the landscape opens up into a vast, verdant plain. Braided rivers with striking turquoise water flow through the flat terrain, fed by glacial runoff from the highlands. During the autumn, the low-lying vegetation covers the ground in bright shades of yellow and orange. The expansive lake to the south is the largest natural body of water on the island, surrounded by a ring of dormant volcanoes and distant snow-capped mountains. This historic and geological center is Þingvellir National Park. The wide plains at the base of the fault lines served as the meeting place for the Alþingi, the national parliament established in the 10th century. The clear waters that fill the deep fissures are filtered through miles of porous lava rock, making them exceptionally pristine. The combination of significant human history and visible tectonic drift makes this valley a focal point of the nation's identity. The park's diverse habitats support various wildlife, including families of gray lag geese that forage along the gravelly shorelines of the rivers. The shifting seasons dramatically alter the appearance of Þingvellir. The bright autumn foliage quickly gives way to harsh, frozen tundra in the winter, when the braided rivers cut through deep snow. The continuous geological activity ensures that the landscape of the park, much like the rest of the island, remains in a state of slow, constant change. Moving to the urban coast, a towering concrete church dominates the city skyline. The prominent tower features a stepped, sweeping design, directly inspired by the hexagonal basalt columns found throughout the country's natural landscape. Below the structure, a dense grid of colorful rooftops spreads out across the peninsula. The urban landscape stretches toward the cold waters of the Atlantic, blending modern infrastructure with the harsh northern environment. This striking structure is Hallgrímskirkja, the largest church in the nation. Standing over 240 feet tall, it serves as a central observation point for the capital. The minimalistic exterior reflects the stark, volcanic aesthetics of the island. A large clock face sits high on the tower, overlooking the bustling streets below. The church took over 40 years to complete, slowly rising above the surrounding residential neighborhoods to become the definitive symbol of the city. The city center radiates outward from the hill where the church stands. The brightly painted houses provide a cheerful contrast to the often gray, overcast skies. The coastal location exposes the streets to strong ocean winds, but the dense layout provides some shelter. From the high vantage point of the tower, the view encompasses not just the urban grid, but the nearby airport runway, the harbor, and the distant, rugged mountain ranges that isolate the capital. Far to the north, another coastal town sits nestled along the shores of a deep fjord. The urban footprint is smaller here, squeezed between the cold waters of the harbor and the steep slopes of the surrounding mountains. Industrial shipping containers and cruise ships dock along the shoreline, connecting the remote settlement to the outside world. During twilight, the serene coastal landscape is bathed in soft light, highlighting the snow-capped peaks that loom over the quiet streets and residential neighborhoods. This northern hub is Akureyri, often referred to as the capital of the north. The weather here is heavily influenced by the deep fjord, which channels dark, dramatic clouds over the water and the town. Despite its proximity to the Arctic Circle, the sheltered location provides a relatively mild microclimate. The harbor remains a vital center for fishing and trade, while the surrounding valleys support rural agriculture, integrating the town deeply with the natural resources of the northern coast. Just outside the town, the terrain transitions quickly into rugged wilderness. Winding streams cut through bright autumn foliage, while hardy Icelandic horses graze in the dry, golden pastures. As winter sets in, the entire region is buried under thick snow, transforming the mountains into pristine white slopes. The contrast between the small, resilient urban centers and the vast, untamed nature surrounding them defines life on this island, where the raw forces of the earth always dictate the boundaries.